Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Oh, she did that again. Welcome to Thinking Like a Lawyer. I am Joe Patrice, and the voice you heard was Catherine Rubino. We're from Above the Law, and we are here to talk about some week's news in law.
Yeah, that is kind of what we do here.
Yeah, I mean, it's some of what we do here.
The rest of it, I think, is Disney conversations.
Yeah, okay. Oh, what's up with Disney?
So they've started their nighttime spectaculars
Ooh.
starting last night, so over the weekend. So it's very exciting. I feel like...
What do you mean by nighttime spectaculars? Like the fireworks and stuff? Or the... Okay.
Yeah, the fireworks, which had been canceled throughout the entirety of COVID. Disney was taking a much more aggressive stance than the state of Florida.
That sounds about right.
Which is accurate. So, things are slowly returning to normal. So it looks like your stance on our previous podcast about attending in-person conferences at the end of the summer is right.
I'm stoked for this. It's late August. I feel like that's enough time, and I'm spending an inordinate amount of time looking like, what restaurants do they have by where I'm gonna be?
Yeah. I feel pretty good about where we are.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just I'm itching to do something again, but I spent my own amount of time trying to find the perfect I'm COVID vaccinated pin that I can wear on all my outfits.
You're ridiculous.
Yes, but also COVID vaccinated. So
That's true.
Both those things can be true.
I got my passport.
You did? I need to do
New
that.
New York passport, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some states, of course, are banning passports because I don't know why. They don't need to. They just need to. If they wanted to do that, they could just not create them.
Yeah.
They don't need to. But I mean,
because it's performative,
making
right?
a performative show is about all we have out of these states these days.
Well, I also think that this is something I know you've talked about and written about in the past, but that the far right of the political conversation is concerned less with governing than in performance.
Yeah.
And this is a way to do that, right? It's not important to actually create or to make a policy as it is to make a bold stance that they can, fundraise off of.
Yeah. I mean, I also heard this weekend that Iowa is trying to trumpet itself as we have the fewest COVID restrictions of any state. Like, that's some sort of I'm
rolling my eyes so hard right now.
Yeah, it's a thing, man.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not about governing. It's about being able to fundraise off of a cheap slogan. And that's further Ev.
Yeah. We can actually transition to a conversation about that after this break, but we can transition to a conversation about performance and the right-wing politics. But first, let's hear from our folks at Lexicon.
Here's a message just for the attorneys out there. So you passed the bar, joined a firm, or even built your own. Now are you finding out that you're doing more administration than actual law practice? Lexicon can help. Lexicon is a legal services and technology provider with over a decade of experience streamlining administrative tasks like timekeeping, HR, billing, client intake, and more, so you can focus on maximizing billable hours and increasing client satisfaction. Call 855-4LEXICON or visit lexiconservices.com/go to learn more.
Okay, so the shadow docket, which sounds a lot cooler than it is. It's actually just kind of a horrible way in which the Supreme Court can mess up your life without you realizing it and without any briefing. The shadow docket is in full play, and what'd they do over the weekend, the Supreme Court?
No, my story was about the new study that came out that said that this is the most religious court in terms of their briefing of anyone since World War II.
Oh, well, that's interesting. And here's how we know it. Because over the weekend, a 6-3 majority of the court decided, without any briefing and all, to strike down COVID restrictions in California, saying, well, we think that because churches, you don't get to have pandemic rules.
Right, which is not anything. I mean, I think that the line that I read about that was that the oldest case that is cited is a 2020 case.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this stare decisis? No, it's not.
Yeah, I feel as though Justice Kagan wrote who is not, the far left of the court by any stretch of the imagination, but is very much the I mean,
she's been forced into that
a very
role.
good writer.
She knows how to wield that pen.
The closing sentence is, because the majority continues to disregard law and facts alike, I respectfully dissent. It is some fire. But yeah, no, it's a troubling decision. It seems to get rid of, at least 20 some odd years worth of religious freedom jurisprudence. I mean, it seems to overturn Smith, but I don't know. It is a really troubling decision, and this now transitions to this report you want to talk about.
Right. Sorry. I thought we were talking about a different study,
We're very well organized today.
Listen, this is why you tune in. But there was a study published in the Supreme Court Review that talks about the courts that have had the highest percentage of decisions for the religious party in the Supreme Court. And the current court, not just the current, under Chief Justice Roberts, they have supported religion in 81.3% of the cases.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, for a little of historical context, under Chief Justice Warren, it was 45.5% of the cases. Under Berger, it was 51.4% of the cases. And under Rehnquist, it was 58.1%. And the other thing that's changed tremendously under the Roberts Court is that in those other previous decisions, it tended to be religious minorities that were being protected.
Yep.
Whereas under the Roberts Court, it has been the majority religion, right? It's been Christians. It's not been, folks who are the minority. So it's very different. So, if you feel like the Supreme Court has become more religious and more literally Christian, you are correct.
Yeah.
It's not just you.
I'm going to clarify one thing out of fairness. While only 3 justices joined Kagan's dissenting opinion here, technically the per curiam opinion notes that Roberts would have also denied the application. So I guess technically it's a 5-4. But sure. Roberts would not join the dissent. So, take that for what it's worth.
Right. And, listen, as the Chief Justice, though, you wind up getting a lot of the things that happen under your watch, historically you'll get painted with.
Yeah,
it will forever be known as the Roberts Court.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's true. So what else have we been up to, I guess?
I mean, you've been writing a lot about law schools recently.
I have. It's one of those situations where, like, law school's a fun thing to talk about because, that's before you become a lawyer and things change. And, like, if you went to law school, you went there to be a lawyer, not an accountant. Take advantage of Nota, a no-cost IOLTA management tool that helps solo and small firms track client funds down to the penny. Enjoy peace of mind with one-click reconciliation, automated transaction alerts, and real-time bank data. Visit trustnota.com/legal to learn more. Terms and conditions may apply.
That was smooth.
Yeah. Nota powered by M&T Bank. Worked it right in there, in a logical way.
You did. You did a good job. Okay. Yep. So now let's talk about Yale Law School.
Oh, let's.
Because there's some controversy going on there. And it's
is there?
It's some folks that are used to controversy, actually.
Yeah. So every year or so, we have a new story about Tiger Mom Amy Chua and Jed Rubenfeld, her husband.
Right, both professors at Yale Law School. Well, Jed is currently suspended.
Oh, interesting. Why is he suspended?
There was a sexual harassment investigation.
Yeah. And the conclusion of that investigation was
2-year suspension.
Yeah. So that's where we sit. Not, firing somebody because, I mean, why would an academic institution with any responsibility to its students do something like that? But they did a suspension, and that also came, I think, that came right after they both made headlines as enablers of the Brett Kavanaugh career, where their daughter, the unwitting social experiment behind the book, but was also a Kavanaugh clerk. But yeah, no, they they came out and did that, although
Right,
there were
because-
reports at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, part of it is because Amy Chua was the faculty member that headed up Yale's clerkship program. So she was very involved, by all reports. She was very involved in getting Yale students the clerkships, which are obviously kind of that little check mark, little brass ring at the end of your academic career in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
And in that role, she had a lot of intel about what it's like to clerk at various high-profile judges' chambers.
Yeah.
So she used to be in charge of that program, but I think you know why she's not anymore.
Yeah. So apparently part of the settlement after, they made headlines as enablers, and, there were comments at the time that she was privately telling clerks, you have to have a certain
way
look.
to be...
Women have to have a certain look to be a Kavanaugh person. Yeah, sort of things that didn't seem particularly shocking as we heard more testimony. Anyway, as part of Rubenfeld's suspension, apparently there was also a secret side suspension for Chua. She would still teach, but she was told not to have any small groups, not to be on the clerkship committee anymore, and to pay a financial penalty. Apparently.
Although the amount is not known.
The amount is not known.
Right.
Anyway, so all of that happened, and then the school reversed course, weirdly. I'm not really...
the school has said that they won't comment on employment matters, and so they've been kind of tight-lipped.
But they reversed course and gave her a small group, despite disagreement, which, I'm not... You don't want to blame the victim. It's not even a victim. You don't want to blame the third party, but out of all of this, Yale's administration doesn't look... it looks a little bit feckless. Anyway, so they reversed themselves, gave her this small group, and then she... according to Yale, apparently, continued to breach all of the terms of this settlement agreement and to continue bringing students over to the house where the
that was
suspended professor for sexual harassment is.
And that was a specific term of according to the Yale Daily News that did the initial reporting on this. One of the initial terms was that Amy Chua would no longer socialize with students.
Yeah.
And apparently continued to do so.
Yeah. So
she's been stripped of
those small groups. But still be able to be a professor and everything, just stripped of that small group. And rather than take this relatively minor punishment in stride, she has pushed back. She sent us a letter that she had sent all of her colleagues denying everything. And I gotta say, after I put that letter up, we started hearing from a lot of alums
who take a very different take. Yeah,
it really is like, I mean, discretion being the better part of valor, or don't fuck around and don't find out, whatever it is. Like, I really get the sense from some of these alum tipsters that are writing us that some of them were upset just generally at the situation, but some of them are expressing they probably wouldn't have come forward but for this letter trying to defend herself.
Right.
And it was that triggered them, like, oh, no, you don't get to do this.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I think that Chua taking this very public stance about things that happened makes folks respond when they have personal information that runs contrary to some of the public statements that have been made. So, there's been a deep well of response. And if you are a Yale Law School alumni and have some information you want to share, tips at abovethelaw.com.
And we're not, some people...
extremely confidential.
Yeah, totally confidential. Some people don't want their stories out there, but they just wanted us to know. And we are here.
It all kind of provides context.
And listen, we're here to listen even if we can't do anything with it. Like, you are being heard.
Right.
Anyway, and it's not just us, too. I saw Leah Lippman posted a statement from an alum on Twitter. Courtney Milan's been saying some stuff like other folks are being contacted by Yale alums about this. It's a thing.
Yeah. And, the other kind of part of this, and you mentioned Courtney Milan, and there've obviously been other sexual harassment scandals, particularly in the federal judiciary.
And you don't say.
I do say. But I think that, that's why I constantly scream about the fact that disgraced former retired Judge Kaczynski tries to, put himself back into the spotlight. There's a reason why that's constantly a thorn in my side. And every time I see it, I make a big deal about it because, keeping the conversation on the things that happened and the not the people who are trying to rehabilitate their image and trying to get back into the sort of the good graces of the legal community, I think is much more important. So we at Above the Law always find that to be a very compelling story.
Yeah.
It's a deep source of frustration for us, I think, kind of seeing what's going on in sort of the big picture.
I mean, we're talking about Yale. I mean, this is obviously a highly ranked law school, but it's also one that, doesn't necessarily... you go to Yale to become president of a small country, not to be a lawyer. But, some people, I'm sure there are some Yale people who come out of there and become transactional lawyers. And you got to wonder if they're in the big law world, they have questions. And some of those questions might be, how have law firms weathered previous economic downturns and come out stronger on the other side? LexisNexis Interaction has released an in-depth global research report confronting the 2020 downturn, lessons learned during previous economic crises. Download your free copy at interaction.com/likealawyer to see tips, strategies, plans, and statistics from leaders who have been through this before and how they've reached success again.
Well, that's a really good transition, actually, to one of the other big stories of the week, which is the kind of intersection of federal clerkships and big law.
Interesting.
Which is that Jones Day announced that I think it was 9 former clerks that they were hiring in this latest round, which is quite a few. Jones Day gets a lot of those high-profile clerks coming to them because they offer very large bonuses. Mm-hmm. So money is certainly a part of it. But yeah, I think it actually includes 3 former Ginsburg clerks as well, which is very much the opposite of
what we think of
ideologically.
When we think of Jones Day, that is the opposite. Although, they have some Ginsburg folks in the offices in D.C. right now, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have other folks there, and indeed, some of them have been very vocal in criticizing the firm when they've made headlines
At least
for
what
supporting...
we hear, yeah.
Well, there were some stories about former Ginsburg clerks who took a stand against the firm's positions on various political matters in the last year or so. Yeah. So yeah, part of it's like, well, if you decide to go to Jones Day, this is what you have to deal with. And I think that is a reality. If you're making a decision, whether it be financial or because of the legal practice or whatever, if you're making a decision to practice at Jones Day, there's a lot of baggage that goes along with that. And I think you have to be ready. You have to be ready and aware that that should be part of your calculus when you're making a decision about where to go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's true. I really do wonder, put aside the Supreme Court clerkships, which is obviously the big brass ring, but I have said this before. I do think that we've not quite turned a corner, but I do think we're starting to see firms just rethink what the value of a clerkship is to the extent that it may be with judges who are, a little bit sus. These judges who are...
Listen, if you've clerked for a judge that has been rated unqualified by the ABA, that's
how valuable is that clerkship?
Well, it's going to read different than for a highly respected jurist.
And the problem is, for years, it didn't read different. These firms just said, oh,
federal clerkship, check.
What circuit, bang. Like that was the check mark. But I think we're starting to see a more nuanced and,
at the very least we should, right?
Just sit there and say like, oh, yeah, no, you learned at the knee of a judge who couldn't figure out how to get ABA qualified. I feel like this isn't really valuable.
Or a judge that was no more experienced than an associate, because that's
literal associates.
Literal associates are becoming
federal
clerkships
judges. Under this.
Federal judges,
Yeah, or federal judgeships.
Right.
God,
and so, the folks, it's a different calculus, and I think that firms who are evaluating potential laterals need to be looking at this. Yeah, I think that's very true.
No, I mean, we really do need to do a better job as a profession. And I do see some firms starting to figure this out, but we need to do a better job as a profession of having a list of like clerking with these judges,
That means
may as well
something
just
a little
not
different.
clerk.
Yeah.
Maybe try again next time.
Yeah, but I mean, counter is right that the folks who are doing those clerkships are probably or potentially going into otherwise politicized roles, and so just it is what it is, kind of.
Ass law needs professors. Um,
Yes, the Antonin Scalia School of Law.
Yes, correct. I guess if any listener was unfamiliar with ass law, that is what it is.
Well, you're of a certain age, so things that seemed really recent to you actually were enough years ago that not all of our listeners may have been clued in.
Do I have a shots fired sound effect? Because that's what I just heard. I do not, but
good. That's good news for me.
Yeah. Anyway, so we are out of things to talk about, aren't we?
Well, I mean, part of the problem, well, not problem, but one of the bigger stories that has continued this past week is the same story.
The bonus, we can't
we've been
do
talking
it
about
again.
for a month. Like, I'm tired of writing about them. You're tired probably of listening about them. But if you're at a firm that has not yet announced spring bonuses, you are very eagerly awaiting every announcement that puts additional pressure on your firm to make similar announcements. So I understand there's a transparency value to for Above the Law continuing to report on every single firm that makes the bonus announcements. And listen, big law transparency is something I feel very strongly about. And Above the Law has recently released a big law transparency project, so you can kind of get one location for all of like the nitty-gritty details about the big law firms. It's currently at the top 50. We're looking to expand it before the end of the year. But the point is, transparency matters. It makes a big deal to people who are making decisions about what firm to go to, particularly folks who have multiple offers. So this is something we will continue to write about. But if you have already cashed your check or you're on track to get yours, it's less important to you than it was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we should wrap this up. We're in
another week, in the books.
Yeah, another one in the books. If you are not already subscribed to the show, you should be. You can do that so you get new episodes when they come down. You should give a review, stars, write something, shows engagement. People then see it, and we can dupe other legal interested audience members into being fans of this show. You should be reading Above the Law. As always, you should follow us on social media. I'm at Joseph Patrice. She's at Catherine1, the numeral 1. Oh, you also host a show called The Jabot, which everyone should check out.
Yes, please.
Yeah, and had a really interesting interview with our friend Anjali about
color of creatorship, about the way critical race theory and intellectual property law, which are not necessarily two interests I would have thought intersect tremendously, but then I read a book about it and wow, it does.
So check out that interview and that book. I also do I do a weekly Clubhouse at 12:30 on Wednesdays, I think, or 12. I can't remember. It's difficult. I'll be there. And then we also do Legal Tech Trending News at the end of the week, talking about legal technology. Also check out all of the Legal Talk Network's various universe of shows. And thanks to Nota by M&T Bank, Lexicon, and LexisNexis Interaction for sponsoring. And I think that's everything, right?
Peace.
Cool.